Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Roofr Report, brought to you by Roofr.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Roofr Report. I'm your host, Pete McKendrick, here with Roofr. And exciting topic today, obviously a controversial topic in the insurance industry at times. Lots of Facebook posts about it, lots of insight into it. And excited to have my guest today, Bradley Gardner with Hometown Restoration, to speak a little bit about the insurance market and lump sum pricing and the way he's running his business, the way he's running his jobs, and to really dive into it. But I'll let you have the floor here for a minute and just kind of introduce yourself, how you got into roofing, how long you've been in roofing, and how the business is running for you.
Yeah, hello, Bradley Gardner. I'm the owner of Hometown Restoration. I guess I got into roofing a little different than most. I kind of backdoored in from the insurance world. I was an insurance agent, and I was happy. I was 20-something years old, and I was making my $109,000 a year, and I'd finally had a real company job and all that good jazz. I was insured out of the ears. I was winning my little awards and everything, and I wasn't going anywhere. I'd previously been a car salesman, and I didn't really like the ethics of that before getting into being an insurance agent. So when I became an insurance agent, I wanted to get a job where I could be a salesman, but I could help people. I didn't want to take advantage of people. And about 3 years in, we got hit with a big hailstorm, and all of a sudden I felt like I was taking advantage of people again. Nobody could give me a straight answer as to why. We were told all the time it was we pay on actual cost incurred, and when I had people sign their arbitration agreements, I explained to them, look, if we ever have any problems, we'll just handle this with a third party. We don't, we're here to be fair. And I told people this for years, and then I turned around and I've got now I'm getting phone calls, getting cussed out because we're not paying properly, and I felt like I was taking advantage of people again. So, long story short, I ended up as opening a roofing company, and when I got into being a roofer, is how I found out how we do things on this end, or we've been kind of, I guess, trained or brainwashed, however you want to say it, into the whole Xactimate game and the cost plus pricing. And first few years, I just did how everybody else did. I was told this is the way we had to do it, and a few years of that, and I was like, well, I wasn't the way we had to do it when I was an agent. All I needed was an invoice, and so we started developing our model around that, and I guess the rest is kind of history. I started telling people about it and what we were doing, and it kind of has developed into this lump sum sales model that a lot of people are trying to figure out. I guess somehow or another, I ended up being a poster child for it.
No, and I think that you made a great point in there. I think so many roofers that are breaking into insurance, whether they're new to roofing altogether or whether they're a retail roofer that is getting into the insurance game. I think so many times brainwashed is a good way of putting it, because I think we just have this unwritten rule that this is how you do it, right? Like, this is how you got to get a claim accepted. You got to go this certain route. You got to use these certain tools. And I think because of that, I think they do serve a purpose. And I think when you're early on in the game, a lot of times roofers that are new to it, definitely it helps them, I think, to kind of develop, in the industry and work with those tools. But at the same time, like you said, they're not always the most effective way to do it, and they're not always necessary, right? And I think that you come from a very unique perspective, coming from the insurance side into it and having seen the other side of the fence where most guys don't, right?
Yeah. Well, I said that the whole time. One of the advantages I had when I got into this world was I didn't have to learn how to sell, and I didn't have to learn insurance. I just had to learn how to be a roofer, which it's crazy, but owning a roofing company that works in insurance restoration work, that's the easiest part of the whole thing. The hard part is dealing with the insurance companies, right? It's the easy part is roofing the house. So I had a big advantage there, But that's another, kind of, you mentioned another thing about like the retail roofer thing. I don't understand really how we ended up differentiating retail from anything else. Like there's retail or wholesale. The only wholesale roofers out there are people that are selling, manufacturers of shingles, and they're selling to distributors. There's no such thing as a wholesale model out there. All of it's retail.
Yeah.
It's like create an invoice, turn it in. Somehow or another, we ended up getting separated into some subgroup, and if you're doing insurance work, it's not retail anymore. It's like it's all retail. It's like retail pricing. Here it is, and somehow or another that concept got separated, and it's like we just acknowledge it as truth. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me to hear like, I'm not a retail roofer. I'm an insurance guy. It's like all of it's retail. It's all retail.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I am of the same thought process. When you go into that job, every job for you as the roofer is a retail job. Like you
Yeah,
should be quoting it the same, you should be approaching it the same. Ultimately at the end of the day, it's the homeowner who's filing the claim. It's the homeowner who has to deal with the insurance company. As the roofer, as long as you pay me, I don't care if the money came out of your pocket or the insurance company's
sure.
pocket to pay for that. Ultimately at the end of the day, it's just a retail job, right? And I think, like you said, I think we've made this very hard line distinction between the two, that if you're doing one, you're not doing the other. When really, ultimately, at the end of the day, it should be the exact same thing. It should
Absolutely.
be the exact same process. And I think that's what really, that mindset is what's really throwing the roofer off, right? I think that's what's getting these roofers so far astray, is because they think they have to do a completely different process and a completely different way of handling the entire job from the start just because insurance is involved.
Well, I'll tell you a lot of what I believe drives that mindset is I think there's a lot of people that aren't roofers that keep teaching roofers how to be roofers. I mean, the majority of the people out there that you go to these training classes and courses as attorneys and PAs, it's like they're trying to teach you how to be a roofer. They got no business, right? And not look. I've got a lot of attorneys and PA friends and people that know their shit, right? I mean, I love guys like that. And I partner with them and do a lot of great things with these guys, people that truly care, but they don't look at it from the perspective of being a roofer. They look at it from the perspective of being a PA and how to teach you how to set their file up the best way. It's like,
Right.
and all that's great, but the lines get blurred, and you're dealing with a guy that he just is a roofer and wants to go out and like, how can I make my roofing company profitable because it's how I feed my family, and all these. I mean, add that up for 20 years and a lot of gray area, a lot of confusion, and then when someone steps up and says, "Hey, we've been doing it wrong. We should just be putting the invoice in." There's a lot of folks that get upset with that. A lot of people that can't wrap their mind around. We don't need supplement companies. We can just roof and send in the bill. And not that I don't. I mean, I think supplement companies have a place in the market, but I don't use one, and I think it's absurd that there's an entire subcategory of an industry that's been built just to try and translate what the roofer is trying to say to the insurance company. It's like, it's not necessary. It's here's the bill. And if you have a problem with it, take it to appraisal. Y'all get attorneys. Y'all fight it out. But that ain't my problem, right? And, some people have an issue wrapping their mind around that, and some people come to me like, "This is the greatest thing. How do I apply it?" And then they try to apply it, and in the same way that they go to. I think another big problem I see with people that do that try to convert to doing the lump sum pricing model, and the sales process that I have is they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. They'll go out there and they'll tell the homeowner, hey, we're going to take care of you, and we're going to make sure your insurance company pays you properly, and we're going to work your claim. And then they're like, well, here's the invoice. And the homeowner's like, well, you told me you were going to do all this stuff. Well, because that's been the sales pitch for the last 20 years. They don't know how to sell a roof any other way. So there's a lot of fine points that need to be figured out, and a lot of changes. But I don't think that going down the road we've been going is to our benefit. I think that if it were Xactimate pricing would reflect real market pricing, and it doesn't. It reflects what's in the interest of the insurance company, which is the cheapest possible way, the thing they can get away with paying. So long-winded, I could talk about this for a long time. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think it's great. It's great insight because I do think that, we just kind of have for a long time have just kind of taken their word for it, more or less, and I think that, you, like you said, I think people are afraid to challenge it. And now that some people are challenging it, obviously hitting some resistance, so, I see a lot of posts about it, obviously on Facebook. You see a lot of rebuttals about it. People saying, the insurance company will never accept it. It's not a great way to price based off of, for the customer's sense, and it's not granular enough and all this stuff. And so, what is your take on that? I mean, I know one of the most popular ways from a retail standpoint here, if we're talking the way things are currently set up, and there's this distinction between the two. Scope of work, what I call scope of work pricing, which is essentially we go in and I quote you a roof system and it's not line item based, is one of the most popular ways to quote a job because it's not so granular that the customer can pick it apart, right? And it makes it easy to quote. It's easy to train people to quote that way. But then when we go to the insurance side of the business, we want to go the completely opposite route, and we're down to the linear foot on every single item, and speak a little bit, I guess, to your experience and why you guys decided to go the lump sum route,
yeah.
and and how effective it's been for you.
Well, I tell you that I'd say well over 75% of guys out there are only using the cost plus to get to a number. And I'll give you an example. Insurance company says we're not paying for pipe boots. State Farm used to do that all the time. You say we don't pay for pipe boots, right? And we'd send in its code, and they'd argue, and they'd say, you know what, that's it. We're going to include the pipe boots anyway. Well, the truth of the matter is we were trying to get into a profitable number, and we were going to build the roof properly anyway, right? So it's like the only reason a lot of guys even come to this table and try to negotiate is so they can get a job. I call it, I liken it to Pavlov's dog. We got locked in a cage, and then they come up, they ring the bell, and they drop us a treat whenever we do right? and so like I had the same conversation with a roofer, been a roofer for 20 something years last night. I'm sitting at the table with him, and he's asking me about lump sum and all this stuff, and he said, man, I'm getting $350 a square. I said, dude, there's no way you can make it. He was asking me how to hire salesmen and all this kind of stuff and grow his business. He's the only guy, it's a one-man show. And I said, man, you can't make it at $350 a square. He said, well, insurance companies won't pay you any more than that. It's like insurance companies pay actual cost incurred, reasonable cost incurred, right? So my take on going back to what you were asking is we write our estimate and we detail it out just like if I was going to sell my grandmother something. I want her very clear, not just for her understanding, but for my understanding. So when she comes to me and, hey, I don't say I'm just going to replace the shingles. I want to make sure that I describe what type of shingle, what color, what flashing, ice and water shield in the valleys and whatever. I want all of that stuff described because when she comes and says I was supposed to do something I didn't do, I can say, no, it wasn't described in this description right here, right? So a clear description, whether it be line itemed out or whether it be in a paragraph or however that's super important. And I think a lot of people have a misconception that I'm just like put roof on a napkin and a price on it. It's not what I'm saying. I think you should absolutely have a full description of it. I'm just saying you shouldn't let insurance companies dictate what you get paid, and you shouldn't tell homeowners that you're going to work with the insurance company. I think you should tell the homeowner and prepare the homeowner on how to advocate for themselves. I think that's our role when it comes to working, being an insurance claim or insurance restoration contractor. We should be knowledgeable enough to prepare homeowners on how to work with their insurance company, how to acquire financing, how to do all these things that would help them. But we should treat it just like we were treating a family member. We want to have an estimate that's fully detailed out with a reasonable price that we can stand behind in good conscience and all that kind of stuff.
So if you don't mind, Bradley, I guess walk us through your sales process and
Yeah,
how it differs from someone who's using like Xactimate or a cost plus type of model.
sure. Well, I guess the original, the one that we're all accustomed to, is the sales pitch. It goes something like, "Hey, my name's Brad. I'm with Hometown, and I'm gonna offer you a roof inspection. We're gonna get up there, take a look, see if you have any damage. If you do, I'll help you get your insurance company to pay for the new roof. And if you don't, I'm just gonna give you this free inspection." And then we go over there, and they have damage, and we say, "Okay, let me help you file your claim, and I'm gonna meet with your adjuster, and I'm gonna go out there, and I'm gonna help you make sure they pay for the roof properly, and we're gonna write our Xactimates up and do all the things that we're supposed to do, and we're level 3 certified and all that good jazz." And we go out there and we argue with adjusters, and that worked for a long time because you could sit over there and you could talk with reasonable adjusters and all that. We and I guess our pitch has gotten a little morphed a little different from that. The pitch is more along the lines of, "Hey, we're Hometown. We're the roofer you asked to come out here and take a look at it. We're going to go up there and give you an inspection, see if you need a new roof." We come down with a full inspection report. We believe that you have damage. This is something that your insurance company likely would cover. We don't really know about your coverage, but I've seen most people get their new roof paid for by the insurance company. I think you need to file a claim. You need to turn in our invoice. Here it is with all the documentation. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we document everything that we have. So we have all of our photos, we have our inspection report. Every time we correspond with you or your insurance company, we also log that and what the correspondence is. So we'll log all of that for you. Because here's the deal, Mr. Homeowner, your insurance company's going to come out here and they're going to pay as little as possible. They're going to do that. That's what they do. Insurance companies try to get away with as little as possible. You're nothing but a number to them. So they're going to go back and forth. They're going to tell you I'm crazy. They're going to try and get between me and you. All you're going to do is tell them either pay my insurance, pay my contractor's estimate, or take me to appraisal. They're going to say okay. They'll either pay the invoice, or they're going to say okay, let's go to appraisal. If they deny you appraisal, I think you might need to read what your contract says with them about who can invoke appraisal. And we tell them where to find that in their insurance policy, right? So we set it up to where when the adjuster comes out, at the minute that he identifies damage, he's got a report from us with our estimate and everything ready to go. And the homeowner agrees. This is the most important part. The homeowner has already read the report, read our estimate, and agreed with everything that we have. Is everything reasonable? Yep. You want us to replace the flashing. You see where it's code right here. We need to replace it. Everything on our estimate is reasonable, and the homeowner understands it. So when that dude shows up, the homeowner's sitting there educated, ready to go. All right, here it is. And the minute the insurance company gets out of line, the homeowner's mad at them, not me. The homeowner's like, y'all can either pay me or take me to appraisal. And the minute they start playing games, I get to introduce them to one of my PA friends or one of my attorney friends and say, "Hey, here's who's going to help you fight that claim. You want to do financing so we can go ahead and put a roof over your head?" And that's my role in the sale. We don't get involved in the arguing with adjusters. And so I get to be the roofer. I get to step back, and I'm a knowledgeable roofer that understands how to help my homeowner advocate for themselves. But my job is to worry about how to do a good roof and offer them options on how to get it paid for whether it be cash check, Bitcoin, finance. Do we need to wait for your insurance check to come in? However you want to do all that. And I work for them. And when you can teach it, I mean, look, we're not geniuses. Any average homeowner can figure this shit out with just a little bit of explaining. And that's what that's the kind of customers we go for.
Well, and I'll tell you what I really love about it as you're talking and I'm listening to the process that you guys go through in comparison to what I've dealing with insurance contractors, is it's so simple, right? Like it's such a straightforward process. That I don't see a need for things like contingency agreements and supplementers and all of these extracurricular things that we have on top of just writing up an estimate. You're essentially talking about selling a job to a homeowner and then letting the customer take that sold job to their insurance company. Where I think we've gone the opposite way in insurance. Like I think we're like taking a job that we haven't even really sold yet to the insurance company and hoping we can negotiate it and make as much as we possibly can off of it.
We do offer a contingency agreement with a homeowner if they want to wait for if a homeowner wanted to finance it today. I'm gonna move them straight to a build contract and we're gonna finance and build them a roof. Right? It's their home. They want a roof over their head. I mean, I go to these hurricanes, man. People don't have roofs over their head, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty bad spots. People need to move now, so we try to offer options as best we can. If it's something where the guy's like, I want to see if my insurance company's going to pay for my roof first. No problem. I'm here for you. All that stuff I told you about documenting everything and following up with you and making sure that we email everything and all of that. If you don't want to be locked into a price today, I'll put you on a contingency agreement, and it says here this is what our price is going to be, but we also reserve the right to negotiate, come down if something's not reasonable, but before we can just cancel the contract. Right, so we do have a contingency agreement, especially if it's working something that's kind of like we're going to be waiting on insurance financing. But I'm gonna tell you, half the states that shit doesn't hold up anyway, and then the other half the states, if it was to hold up, I'm never going after a homeowner if they cancel a contingency anyway. It only just gives me a little bit of glue to the job. It's a commitment from the customer to hire me. Outside of that, if the customer says he don't want me to work for him no more, I'm gonna move on, Jack. I mean, it's just so we get caught up in, oh, did you sign a contingency? You charge 10%. I'm never gonna do that ever. I don't earn money that way. I earn money when I start nailing shingles down. And if someone doesn't want me to do that, I'm not gonna force them to pay me. It's just, but that's my philosophy. I don't. There's a time and place for different types of contracts, and I have a video on that. And we don't have to go deep into it. But you're right. To touch on what the point of what you said was, it's so simple, which means my business has been able to scale. I don't have to teach you how to be an adjuster to come in here and be a project manager for me. I have to teach you how to sell roofs, right? I don't have to, so we get these guys that come in here and you got to learn how to fight a 20-year adjuster, and you got to learn roofing, and you got to learn how to be a salesman. Oh, by the way, you got to make it 6 months before you get any real money out of this gig because you can't figure it out. Well, no doubt, we're the only people we can attract is the bottom of the barrel. At my company, man, I got quality guys running around with my brand on, because we don't deal with that. We have a much more simple, streamlined process that allows them to focus on selling roofs and not fighting claims. Between my 8 guys out there that are selling right now, we're going to sign 60 contracts this month. I couldn't have dreamed of something like that 6 years ago. When we were doing it the way everybody's normally doing it. So it's hard to convince me that I'm the crazy one. It's working over here.
It's working, right?
So.
Well, and to that point, one of the biggest things I see when you see comments on the Facebook posts about lump sum is, the insurance companies will never accept it. You guys go that route, you'll never get the same results. Right. And so I guess speak a little bit to that success and how you guys have been how successful have you guys been
Yeah.
in comparison to the way you guys were? Like, that's a perfect example. You're getting way more contracts signed. You know, how is it dealing with the insurance companies, and what's the rate at which you guys are winning these jobs with them
Yeah.
in comparison to when you were doing it the traditional way?
Well, I'll say this: there's no magic bullet. It's not like we're just out here batting 1,000, right? No one is. Um,
Yeah.
it's hard to quantify what is, you know, what's the big advantage, right? The big advantage for me is I've seen since we've done this, my business expand. Now, that could be for a lot of reasons, but and we could dive into that. But as far as our process, our workload on our office staff, we've been able to focus on growing as a business, which has allowed us to grow. So that's, I think, something that's you can't put a number on. Now, when you're looking at real numbers, I guess as far as percentages, I'd say probably 70% of signed contracts end up being builds, right? We lose some along the way, no doubt about it. It may be, you know, 75% end up being builds, somewhere in there. We lose some along the way. Not all of that is because of insurance. Customers we lose along the way. People keep checks still, right? I mean, there's problems that come up when you marry somebody for 3 to 6 months of an insurance claim, and jobs just go sour, and we lose them, or we can't get this one bought, and this one the homeowner doesn't. They were all on board on day one. But now they're talking about I don't want to sue my insurance company. I'm a good Christian person. I like my agent. They go to church with me. It's just there's no magic bullet. So we absolutely lose jobs. So I get it, but I do know that I throw a whole lot more stuff on the wall, and a whole lot more of it sticks with this process. If it were different, we would do it different. If it didn't work, I would I'd be doing it different.
Yeah. I mean, talk to the fact of how you guys have been able to scale under this model.
Yeah.
Because I think that's ultimately any roofer, right? That's what we're looking to do. Like my goal, if I started a roofing company today, my goal would be to set myself up to scale that business. And like you said earlier, even I think before we even started talking, was you said like you've gotten to the point where it's almost running itself at this point,
Yeah,
right?
I'm on
And it's a
autopilot, man.
huge difference. So speak to how changing to this type of model has really helped to get you there.
Well, in order to do the volume we're doing under another model, I would need twice the office staff I have to fight claims, right? Or I would have to subcontract for anywhere between 2 and 10% of my job to subcontractors that do that for us. That's why that model's out there, right? The everything from the PA to the estimators and all that stuff. And I use PAs. There's times when it's time to introduce a homeowner to a PA. I don't pay for them. I have homeowners pay for them, right? So that's kind of a thing there. I'm That's probably the biggest thing is we're really really lean compared to most companies that do our volume. That's allowed me to go out there. I guess the other huge factor that's out there is my sales team coupled with my CRM coupled with my office. Everything is integrated to where from the time we sign a customer to we have an approved scope and we're price agreeable. I mean, it's a matter of clicking a few buttons, and the material order is ready. The roofers are ready to build it. So our internal processes and our systems in here make it real streamlined. Which allows my team to handle more volume. So it's like that's the most important part for me. It's like I've got 8 sales guys, 2 managers, and 3 office girls that are running. Like we will most likely cross 20 million this year. It's like cross 15 last year, right? Like that's lean. I mean, I
Yeah,
see
that's
guys that are
lean.
doing those numbers with twice the staff, and and
Yeah.
and that's awesome. I mean, we're killing it, getting full sticker on our roofs, right? And so, and I literally, and I say this, and people laugh at me. I'm bored right now. I answer a few phone calls a day, but my team know I'm surrounded by amazing people that are just killing it, and they're able to do that because it's not a complicated ass job. It's like everybody has we're just roofing, we have a process. The minute an insurance company stonewalls our homeowner, we tell our homeowner, take it to appraisal. Here's the phone number to an attorney. Let me get you on a 3-way call with him. He'll help you out. We don't. And it took a little while to build up a pipeline, but now the pipeline's full of, stuff coming out of attorneys and stuff coming out of PAs and stuff going in. So I mean, it took a little while to get that system to be a well-oiled machine, but with a really lean team, I'm able to do what volume that some people are doing with twice as many people. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that because I that's my experience. Working with companies. I came from a CRM background over to Roofr, and on the CRM side, I worked with all kinds of roofers,
yeah,
commercial roofers, residential guys. Just strictly retail guys, and so many times when you went to guys that were doing insurance work, the first thing you noticed was these companies are huge.
yeah,
Like they've got salesmen everywhere,
yeah,
right? They've got a ton of people running around. A lot of times struggling to stay organized, right? And losing that organization and that streamlined factor of it, which is just creating chaos and making it that much harder,
yeah.
which puts them in a position where it's damn near impossible for them to scale the business. Right. So they're struggling just to stay afloat and just to stay ahead of it. And there's tons of money coming in the door, but
Oh, it's
God only
going
knows where
out.
it's going,
Yeah.
right?
And
Because
and that can
we got
happen
people
quick.
everywhere, right?
It doesn't take. I mean, we had a whole bunch more offices. We cut down some of our I guess outgoing expenses and moved a lot. So we streamlined a lot of this stuff down in the last 2 years. I mean, just in 1 week, we made some cuts, and I mean, it ended up saving me like $18,000 a month. It was like, and it was
Crazy.
stuff that was just dead weight, right? It was just hanging
Yeah.
on because it was how we used to do it, and it was, well, we don't want to make that cut because we really like the guy, and so that it was something that saved me 18 grand a month, and
Hmm.
it was a matter of just moving that process in house. So a lot of that stuff, we get. I think that's, probably probably speaks to a lot of our issue with this over the topic that we're on, like lump sum and how it works in comparison to the other stuff. Is we get our minds as business owners just wrapped into this is how we've always done it, and this is what we're supposed to do, and with growth comes change, and those types of changes, that's something that's necessary to be aware that they're out there. One of my favorite stories, one of my favorite business stories, and I try to think about this all the time in my business. It's about Tabasco. I'm sure you're familiar with Tabasco sauce, right?
Sure.
So when I was a kid, I grew up in Louisiana, and uh, when I was a kid, Tabasco, you would shake the bottle and you would get 2 or 3 drops out. Right? It was really hot. It was hard to get the shit out of the bottle. Around about 2006 or something like that. I'm wrong on the date. I know I am, but early 2000s, the Tabasco hires a new CEO, and they said, "What are we going to do to increase revenue? We're all over the world. Tabasco is everywhere, and
Yep.
Tabasco plants are grown on Avery Island, Louisiana. It's a little island out in the swamp out by New Iberia, not far from where the hurricane hit just recently, and it's not a very big area, and they're like, how can we make more money off Tabasco? And the CEO walks in, takes the top off the deadgum Tabasco bottle and says, we're going to make the hole. They ended up making like another millimeter or something bigger hole. 4x sales that year because you could pour more sauce out. They needed a bigger hole, right? 4x the business. Everybody has that little hole that needs to be made. Everybody has that one minimal change that would change their business tremendously. right? And we get so caught up in, well, this is what Tabasco is, and it's just a few drops that need to come out. We get caught up in that in our own businesses, and so I try to think about, where am I missing, what's in the way. I try to be objective, and I'm fortunate enough now to where I'm not running material, and I'm not trying to go close this job, save this customer. I get to do that now. I get to look at it from the bird's eye, and
Sure.
I recommend everybody get to that point in their business, because it's when it's fun. It's
Yeah.
boring, but it's fun.
So one thing, a little off topic, you mentioned it. So from my standpoint, obviously at Roofer, we're a software platform, big on the tech part of roofing and
Sure.
where the roofing industry is going. You mentioned how you guys have been able to really streamline the business by involving tech. You mentioned your CRM, how crucial it is to your business. What tech stack or what platforms have you guys employed that have really been what you would find to be probably the most beneficial? Obviously, the CRM you mentioned right off the bat.
Yeah.
You don't have to name them by name, but what things have you guys put in place from a tech standpoint that have allowed you guys to run so much leaner and so much more efficient than you were before?
Yeah. Well, I'm very careful to name names, because I don't want people to think that I'm promoting folks, right? Uh, but I do appreciate the people that I work with. I don't. I signed on with my CRM before I even knew about Roofer. I'm sure you guys have a great thing going on, and I haven't even given it a shot, because mine does what I need it to do. But I recommend anybody to go figure out what theirs does. I use RoofLink. My guys, they do a great deal, with what pretty much everything I need them to do. I think a lot of CRMs have come a long way, and from where it started, it used to be just a couple names out there that were halfway decent, really weren't for
Sure.
roofers, and then now it's like, they now we're getting these, industry specific CRMs that are really awesome. Some stuff y'all are doing, some stuff other folks are doing, really awesome, right? We don't use this other feature in RoofLink, so because we use Company Cam, and that's where all of our photos and documentation stuff comes from. Uh, I was real adamant about keeping Company Cam separate from the CRM. The CRM crashes for whatever reason. God, they haven't ever. I didn't want to lose all my photos. I wanted them independent from each other. But what we do is we download all, and I have my office do this. We download the photo report from Company Cam and store it into the CRM just for some redundancy. Those are some things. I mean, that's processes in house for us. But that's kind of it. G Suite is an email and a website. But I mean, the CRM. We use our CRM and Company Cam, and that's it. Uh,
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you touched on there is really the key, and I think so many times is missed. I think everybody looks to see like, well, what is he using? Why is he successful? What CRM is he using? But it's not so much that as much as finding the one that works for you,
yep.
right? Some like you guys were able to figure out a process that runs with two pieces of technology, maybe three if you count,
Sure.
your Gmail and your G Suite. You guys have a very streamlined process, obviously, and you guys are able to do it with just a few things. I've seen other guys that have incredible processes, and they may have six or eight
Yep.
platforms involved in it. And I think that's the really interesting thing I think to stress when it comes to technology is find what works for you.
Sure.
Find what's gonna fill, like you said, maybe help you with that hole, and figure out how do we make that more efficient? How do we make it better? If it takes a specific piece or if a piece of technology that we are currently using has a feature that could help, I think that's the key there, and I think that
Uh,
gets missed
that's
so
the
many
deal.
times.
That's the deal. It's like, could I get more accurate measurements? Probably, than what my CRM gives me. But it's $100 to get, or $60 or $30 or whatever to get what an Eagle View or whatever to do it. Well, per job, you're talking about 400 jobs a year. It's a lot of money, and for what? For a square? Maybe off one or two. Who knows? How about we just add a couple square to the job? Increase the waste a little bit and bid it that way. Well, I get to do that because I'm a lump sum contractor. I'm not a cost plus contractor, and I get to say this is what we bid, and we build in some of that,
Sure.
pad to make sure that we don't lose. So it all integrates together and it becomes like its own symphony, right? And my orchestra is different than anyone else's orchestra. It should be. I mean,
Right.
I'm surrounded by different people that are creating a different thing, and we should have our own flavors and our own sauces, and that's what makes you. Who the hell wants to go to the same restaurant? It's like, what's the point? So
Yeah.
you start getting into the fine details like that about which programs am I using and all that. I mean, that comes down to what are you doing and where are you at. And there's a lot. I mean, who are you running it with? What's important to you? Uh, you know, those things all play a factor into that. So, I mean, and man, I'm gonna tell you, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I guess I've been in this business 8 years now. There was nobody doing it like you guys and some of the other guys are doing now. I mean we used to all say we were an archaic business. We didn't have technology, so we always ran behind all the other industries. That's not the case
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely.
Like the case now is we have technology to envelop our businesses in and like use them or you'll get left behind. I mean, that's just a fact. The technology out there is great, and it makes our business. It's the only way we can run with half the staff of most of those companies.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I agree with you. The technology has come so far. I mean, I've been in on the technology side of roofing now for the last 5 years, I guess, and
Yeah,
it's just I've seen it come light years,
yeah,
in that amount of time. And it's, I was on the contractor side prior to that, and hardly used it. I
yeah.
mean, but, we didn't even have anything.
Everybody was on paper
We
when I
had
started.
to be. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did everything by paper and, taking a picture with your phone and texting to somebody or
Yeah,
something. It was all basic stuff. We never would have thought we'd be, you know, building our entire workflow around a CRM or something like that. So it's incredible to see where the products have gone.
we don't have a filing cabinet, man. I don't have.
Yeah.
Everybody used to have their
Yeah.
boxes with the files, and you bring them and you turn the master files in when you're ready to build. We don't have that. We don't have a hard copy
Yeah.
of anything, and it's just a different world. I remember, like, I was in the car business, like I told you earlier, in 2007 and 8, and that's when the internet and was starting to, Amazon and all those guys were popping up, and you were starting to buy cars and get information about cars online, and the car business was moving into technology, right? Nowadays, you walk into car dealerships and they sit down and they pull up a computer and they start going through the inventory. It's a completely different sales process than it was when I was a car salesman. I bought two vehicles, one for me and one for my wife last year, and it's completely different. And I bought it from the dealership that I used to work at, and it's like, and I also recruited the salesman. He now works for me, but
There you go.
but anyway,
Nice.
I watched that metamorphosis happen when I was in the car business, and I've seen it happen here. It definitely lagged behind, but we are in a
Sure.
new era of roofing and a new, I guess, construction even. You guys are running around with iPads, and if you're not, you're the weird one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You stand out now.
yeah,
Well, cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I guess my last question would be if I'm a contractor, maybe I'm thinking about getting into it, what would be your advice to me? Why would I want to go to lump sum? Why would I want to go that route? And you know, I'm weighing my options. Maybe what's the best way to approach that and become an insurance contractor. Like you said, I
yeah.
hate the fact that it's its own separate thing, but it has become like its own kind of separate market. And what would be your word of advice to someone looking to break into that?
Well, I guess first off, before I make any decision, I got to know my why, right? And I would probably center my why around being a restoration contractor means going and helping people when they have suffered a loss, and being there as someone that can help people. And that's the first thing that why I'm in this business. If I wasn't helping people, if I wasn't offering a service that I felt benefited people, I couldn't do this. We do something else, right? And so that's A. And if you're going to ask yourself, can I help people? What is the best way to do that? Well, the most efficient, streamlined, and I guess easiest to scale version of that I know of is doing the lump sum sales process. And what we kind of developed is our sales process, getting away from the Pavlov's dog of, being locked in the Exactimate cage and getting fed a treat whenever we act right. And that get away from that. Run your business for you and your customers, not for insurance companies in the way they want you to. So that would be my why. How would I do it? I'd probably go to my page, the Lump Sum Contractor. I'd start there. Be careful. I don't ban anyone. I don't censor anything. We get into some real knockdown dragouts in there, but I want it that way. I want this to be forged in fire, right? I want contractors to have a place where we go and argue this shit out, and and if some people get MF'd in there, and I'm one of them, they come at me harder than anyone, So that's fine. I love engaging the conversation because everybody gets to read and learn and form their own opinions, and so. By all means, go in there, read and learn, and form your own opinion, and start doing what works for you. And hopefully, at the end of it, if we all kind of do this together, we will start narrowing down what works. Right? I've got an idea and a blueprint for that, but like I said, that we don't have the magic pill yet. No one does. It sure isn't what we've always done. Right? We know that. Right. So changing is not going to be easy, and we know that. So figuring out what that is something we're doing together as a group. And the whole reason I started talking about it and selling this group and teaching, I do all this for free. I don't promote myself online ever about anything. People call me all the time. We talk. I'm not trying to sell you anything. All I care about is I don't want to be the only idiot on the phone with the insurance company talking about a lump sum. If we're all talking about it, it's like they have to hang up with you and talk to me, and then they got to hang up with me and talk to them. So, and we're all saying, nah, we're not moving. Well, they got to change now, right? When that's the case, and that's what I cared about. It wasn't about trying to sell you the new sauce and make videos for $3.95, and that's not my game. I never cared about that.
Yeah. Well, great, man. I really appreciate it. I think some great insight here. Obviously, definitely, I hope the direction that things continue to go. I think it's great to see, I think it's something that our company started in, looking at a system that was potentially broken and trying to figure out the best way to fix it. And I feel like you're doing the same exact thing. You started with the right mindset of helping people, and you saw a broken system and you're figuring out how to fix it. And I love that part of it a lot. And, I really appreciate you getting on here and talking about it and sharing some of your, experiences and why you guys ended up where you are and how successful that you've been. And, thanks again for jumping on and having a conversation with me.
Pete, thanks for having me. Anytime, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Hey, be sure to join us on the Roofr Report every other Tuesday. Great topics, great guests like Bradley here today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, guys.